Okay, so this is part 3 of lesson 12.4. Now we're going to look at matrix multiplication. Okay, remember, really important that we remember the difference between a row and a column. So the way matrix multiplication works is if we, for example, have a 2 by 2 matrix, and we don't have to have a 2 by 2 matrix. It's not like addition and subtraction where they have to be equal to each other, but in this case they are. We take a row and multiply it by the column of the other matrix, column or row times column, and vice versa. So if you look here, you can see here that we've got a row times a column, row times a column, row times a column, row times a column. Another way to think of this is we could say, or row 1 is going to be multiplied by column 1, and that'd be in the first position, and then we could have row 1 again times column 2, and then down here we would have row 2 times column 1 and row 2 times column 2, and that would give us our solution, our new answer. Okay, so let's see how this applies and what it's going to look like. So in our first example here, we've got we've got two 2 by 2 matrices, negative 5, 5, 8, 6, negative 2, 1, 1, 1. So we want to do rows times columns. So the way this works is I'm going to take row 1 of this matrices, and I'm going to multiply it by column 1 of this matrices, and I'm going to add their products. So what do we mean by that? This is what we mean. So we've got negative 5 times negative 2, and then we're going to add 5 times 1. Okay, so you can see that there. All right, and that would be the first position. And then the next position would be, again, these negative numbers, or I'm sorry, this row here, negative 5, but now we're going to multiply it by this row. So now we're going to have negative 5 times 1 plus 5 times the other 1. Okay, and that would be our positions. And then the next two positions, we're going to be using row 2 and multiplying by columns 1 and columns 2. So for example, we're going to take row 2 now and multiply it by row 1. So we would have 8 times negative 2 plus 6 times 1. And we add those together. And then we're going to take this row, multiply it by this column. So we'll have 8 times 1 plus 6 times 1. And if we do the math, let's see, negative 5 times negative 2 is 10, plus 5 times 1. So that's going to be, sorry, I'm moving this around. Where were we? So that's going to be 15. And then the other one, negative 5 times 1 is negative 5, plus 5, that's going to be 0. And then over here, 8 times negative 2, that is negative 16, plus 6, it's going to be negative 10. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 6 times 1 is 6, so 8 plus 6 will be 14, and this is our solution to that matrix. Okay, let's continue. let's do one more example together, and then I'll have you guys do these two examples on your own. So again, we want rows times columns. So we're going to take 4 times -2 of this column plus -2 times 1. And that will be one of our potential solutions. And then we're going to do the same thing here, this row times this column. So we're going to have 4 times 1 plus -2 times 1. And then we start doing the bottom row times these columns. So -2 times -2 plus 3 times 1. And then over here we'll have -2 times 1 plus 3 times 1. And for our answers, we should get, let's see, if I take 4 times -2 is -8, plus -2, I'm going to get -10, and I'll get 2, 7, and 1 for our solutions. Okay. So now go through and try these two examples and pause the video. All right, now hopefully you've tried both of these examples and you've come back. So when we look at this next example, okay, we've got a 2x2 matrix times a 1x2 matrix, right? It's just only got one row. So 2x2 times a 1x2. So again, that'd be a 2x2 times a 1x2. We can't, whoops. We can't multiply because the two middle numbers are not the same. Okay? Since those two middle numbers are not the same, it's not going to work. Whereas down here, though, down here we've got a different situation. Now we have a 1x2 times a 2x2. This one will work because, again, when we're doing multiplying with matrices, we have to be able to multiply a row by columns. This one didn't work up here because we had two rows, but we didn't have any columns. We just had another row. So we can't take rows and multiply them by rows. We can only take rows and multiply them by columns. And if I have 2 in this row, I've got to have 2 in this column. Here, though, I have 2 in this row and I have 2 in each column. So I can perform these calculations. I can take 2 times -2 plus 1 times 1. And that'll be one set of answers. And then I can multiply this by the other column. 2 times 1 plus 1 times -2. And that's going to give me -3 and 0. And there's my answer. I get a 1x2 matrices. And so that's how those will work out. And these are the simple ways of multiplying some simple matrices.